Aloha, my name is Dr. Drstephaniehan, and today what I'd like to do is tell you a little bit about my teaching philosophy and how I came to found my online teaching platform, Drstephaniehan.com. First of all, I came to understand an idea about the importance of narrative in terms of how women conduct their lives. If we look back historically, women have always been storytellers. But the thing is, women have not always been the ones to write down the stories that govern our lives. In other words, women have not been in charge of the texts that govern our spiritual, philosophical, financial, national, and education systems. These texts under which we live have always been authored by men and have never centered the stories of women. This does not mean that these texts are not important. These texts are beautiful, they are powerful, they're interesting, and they're provocative, but they are not texts that have prioritized the needs and the bodies of women. If we think about text and if we think about writing, women have also not been writing for a particularly long period of time. Of course, people will point to somebody like Sappho the poet or Lady Murasaki, the very first Asian and very first novelist period from Japan. But these women were indeed rare. For the most part, women have been engaging in the act of writing for a very short period of time, hundreds of years, not thousands of years. So the very act of writing down what you believe, of writing stories that you imagine or the stories that are truthful and depict your life, is a radical act of rebellion, because what you're doing is you're disrupting the narrative that was created by men. Now, why is this important? This is important because there are so many ways that women have been made to feel that they are often inadequate in society. And it is because of the belief systems that undergird our society that they feel like this. So what can you do? Well, what I propose that you do is to rewrite a belief system that works for you. This doesn't mean that you have to write an entirely new text. But what it does mean is that you should interpret the existing text in a way that is meaningful for you. And you should be able to think of your life in a more open way so as you can author it. And once you do this, you will become empowered. One of the ways that I think that you might do this is through an idea of using literature and literary criticism terms to author your life. So in other words, think of your life as a story. Who's the protagonist? You. When does the story begin? Your birth. When does the story end? Your death. Who's the antagonist? You know, the antagonist could be someone you're in love with or are not. It could be your family. It could be the nation. It could be a public or political system. But an antagonist could also be your own self. You know, we can be our worst enemies. So, and also you need to think when you're writing a story, what's the setting? Where do you live and why? You might think about the minor characters. How have they helped you along in life? Or supporting characters. How do you experience life? You have to remember when you're writing on the page and when you're reading, it becomes a sensory experience because you're using description. So you too must ask yourself, what am I seeing, tasting, feeling, touching, hearing, etc.? So what I propose is that you reframe and think about your life as a story that only you can write. And with this truth and with this idea, you can live more authentically. So I encourage you to write your truth to power. And please, yes, register at Drstephaniehan.com. And I look forward to seeing you in class.